Very good morning. First of all, I would like to thank TNB and Aspiring Minds for inviting me to share my thoughts with all of you. And thank you so much for taking your time. It shows the level of interest that you have, for the potential employees of this country and also the student community. I really appreciate this. As Mr. Pandurangara was speaking, it just strikes me what kind of people are we dealing with. Today this generation is called Gen Y, and how complicated that they can become. Today morning my 4-year-old son asks me something very interesting. I've been traveling for the last 3 weeks to China, US, then in India, Bombay and all. So in between I had an opportunity to be in Hyderabad only for a day, and I had in our company we give this option for working from home for 2 days in a month. So I availed that because I had to take the evening flight and I couldn't take an off because of some commitments. So he came back from the school and his definition of office dress is formals. So he didn't find me in that. So then he said, "You're not wearing office dress." I said, "No." He said, "What are you doing?" So I told him that, "Look, I'm working from home." So today morning he wakes up and tells, "Look, I'll study from home." Yeah. So then he also asked me, "Why should I go to school daily?" I said, "Yeah, logical question." So I didn't have an answer. Kids are very smart, so sometimes it's very difficult for answer. But it gives you an idea of what kind of generation that we are dealing with. So they tend to become more complex. What is important for them may not be important tomorrow. And this we find it more and more complex and challenging in the IT world because the change is so rapid. So with that, let me share with you, how would you shape the talent pool. Before that, I want to give you a certain context and how that context imposes a challenging environment from an IT perspective, and what are some gaps that we see. Just to give you some outlook of, fiscal year 12. This is the NASSCOM data. IT export and revenues are estimated to reach by about 69.1 billion USD by the end of this fiscal year. And software and services revenue would comprise nearly 87% of the total industry revenues. This industry continues to be the net employment generator, expected to add 230,000 jobs. Okay. And as a proportion of GDP from 1.2% in 98, it's estimated to be about 7.5% by the end of this fiscal year. And if you look at the share in total exports, it's risen from 4% to about 25%. And global macroeconomic scenario still remains uncertain. As Ms. Shakti was mentioning, it is a cautious optimism. Things are not so bad, but at the same time, we are not in that age or era wherein, companies are spending, going left, right and center, hiring and all stuff. So Indian industry is still hiring at a rapid pace. The growth is still there, but it is growing with a cautious optimism. Okay. And as an industry, this industry has shown a lot of resilience in the last couple of years. Primarily because the industry has changed, has learned the way to operate in uncertainties. Business models were changed, organization structures were changed, customer outlook has changed. So it's the necessity that has driven. Some more interesting trends and facts. Larger product firms are expanding their footprint in new emerging verticals like retail and healthcare. Right? as there's a hue and furor that is going on in the parliament on FDI, the IT industry is already focusing big time, on this kind of verticals. Engineering and R&D firms are increasingly developing their capabilities. This is an interesting thing. India as a country, we are not known for innovation. When I was in US, somebody asked me, apart from nano, what was India's contribution to the world? I said, yeah. Unfortunately, nano was the big thing that happened in many years. The innovation quotient of this country is low. In Japan, they actually release about 10 products in about 60 days, of which very rarely one product hits the market, only one. So I was asking one of my colleague in Japan, why do you, if you take so much pain to innovate and only one hits, but what's the logic? Why do you need so much pain? And their answer is, they know that why 9 products don't work. Whereas in India, we still not ventured into that area. So, but this is thankfully in the last couple of years, the engineering and R&D is generally in the country, not only just in IT, is picking up. That's a good sign, but we still have a long way to catch it. And once again, as Ms. Shakti was mentioning, demand is primarily picking with the changing demographic conditions in the country. Between India and China, which currently has the largest population, in other 20-30 years, India still will hold the advantage when compared to China. Any idea why? Beyond English. Yeah, but what is driving that? No, their education is far more superior than us. It's only that communication, this thing.
We don't have inhibitions on producing children.
Perfect. Now, that's a blessing in disguise. See, if you look at China's population graph fell like this, whereas India is going like this. So now they are struggling what to do. Because if they, and in China, you have that iron lid on anything. So if they relax it, they don't know what the implications are. So they are in a big dilemma. So, sometimes, our own thought process, which we used to curse for the last 20-30 years, many politicians or, economists used to curse, we should emulate China's model, otherwise we will not be able to put our arms together on population. Suddenly, now when you see this trend happening, they're saying, yeah, this is good for us. Our people have really thought through. So we never know whether they have really thought through or not. Okay. But, yeah, you could think that way. One other thing that is going to happen is shift into the business shift is happening from North America and EMEA to Asia Pacific region, because this is the growing market. And then cloud and mobile technologies, they are going to drive the future growth. These two will be the engines, the cloud technologies and the mobile technologies in the IT space. And what is happening now is there's a lot of reverse brain drain that is happening. People are willing to come back to India. Expats are willing to come back to India. As we speak, I have a request from my corporate team that there's a gentleman who's working in France, who's a French citizen. He wants to work out of India before he retires. So he's just 3 years away from retirement, but he wants to work in India. Because the culture and the organization and especially work culture in IT, they've changed a lot in the last 10 years. So, this is an appealing thing. Our own people who are reluctant to come to India are now slowly coming back to India. And increase in onshore development activity. In the last 10 years, the focus was offshore. You send people to US or Europe or whichever part of the world. But now, with all the changing macroeconomic scenario, the onshore development is a focus. Now, in this kind of environment that we operate in the context, with all these changes, there are certain challenges that the industry is facing. The big challenge is, how do we remain competitive in terms of cost and quality of delivery? Okay. Except for about 2 years when the global recession was at its peak, wherein companies did not put a hiring salary freeze. Other than that, the increment percentages were anything between about 15 to 30%. Now, what this does is it puts a severe pressure on organization, that wage inflation goes up. And what is happening is, on one hand, you have this pressure, on the demand supply, which is increasing that cost pressure, or your own cost pressure in terms of wage. On the other hand, with the macroeconomics scenario, the customer is saying, I don't want to pay more, or I will pay you less. The models are changing. Earlier, companies used to bill per hour or per head. Now they are saying, we'll bill you per transaction. Now, what this does is, this changes the gamut completely. So the challenge today is, how do we remain cost competitive as well as deliver that kind of a quality? Stay ahead in terms of providing continuous innovative solutions. This is a big thing. A lot of people still think, despite our success in IT, can India deliver? Interestingly, a lot of countries, not the companies, countries in the world are watching very closely how India delivers this UID project, right? The largest ever project, IT project anywhere in the world. Okay, they are watching very, very closely, because no other country can actually envisage such a kind of project, which can cut across multiple technologies, which can cut across different systems that the government has. So it's a very big thing. And if this happens, forget about India, the opportunities for governments across the world, they'll start thinking differently. Adapt to rapidly changing business cycles. So earlier, the business cycles, you had these ups and downs, once in 10 years. Now the prediction has that you will have once in 3 years. And the time that you need for a cycle to go up was shorter earlier. Now the time that is required for that cycle to go up will be much longer. So you will have shorter business cycles of up and down, and you will have a longer period for going up. So gentlemen and ladies, this would put enormous pressure on the delivery models of the industry, and then agility of the organization. How can organization change to this reality? How quickly can you adapt? And the other thing is that, with US not picking up, EMEA or Europe in the doldrums that it is, Asia is a big market. So, so the focus is more on the developing markets, and including India. There's a huge opportunity that IT has. What government did not spend in the last 50 years, government is now going to spend in the next 5 years in IT. Because what government has also realized is the services, how efficiently it can deliver to a larger group of population. That really matters. Reliance actually, when they launched their first CDMA services, I don't know how many of you recollect, they had a very attractive plan of 40 paisa for this thing. So I was actually talking to one of the Reliance telecom people. Now, of course, you have per second billing, everything. But they were ahead of curve, and I was asking, what prompted you at that point of time? Your outgoing call was about 4 rupees or so, 3 rupees or 4 rupees. So why did you choose that? And they took a bold step, and the thought process at that point of time, and they used to call that as a Dhirubhai Ambani plan, was that Dhirubhai Ambani had a vision that you don't need to teach India's population. Give them a cell phone, they'll get educated. Seriously. Phones have actually changed. So similarly, at that point of time, Reliance strategy was, how can I ensure that mobile technology is pushed to the masses in scale? Similarly, today government is looking at how can I push through that technology efficiently, because if governments can do this successfully, the probability of they coming back to power is also high. So with this kind of environment, with this kind of challenges, organizations can do only through people, and a lot depends on the young minds and fresh talent that is going to come into the industry. So let me share with you what the requirements of the industry are, the employer's perspective in IT, and what the gap is, and the many things that Mr. Panduranga Rao had shared, it also applies, to this industry. See, net, we need highly skilled people, and the gap is weak fundamentals. It is becoming a challenge to get a dozen people out of 400-500 people. Okay, and when you dig through, especially people coming from engineering colleges and all, their fundamentals are weak. 4 years of engineering, at the end of the day, when a test is conducted on a Java, C, C++, their fundamentals are weak. Ability to plug and play resources. What it means is, I need people who are flexible enough, who can learn quickly, and I can put them into different technologies or businesses, because my business cycle is changing. Now the challenge here is that the gap we see is adaptability. People are too rigid, or somebody says, I want to learn this, I want to be in this, I don't want to move. Okay, the same reflects with the students. Okay, organization's requirement is to build capabilities, because the onus is also on the organization to invest in people and build capabilities. But for that, we need people to take a long-term view of the career. Unfortunately, students today have this "what's in it for me," a one-year syndrome. I was actually part of one campus interview, and the final interview was happening with me, and the student was extremely bright. And my entire panel selected, wherein unfortunately I could not select. Because the person's thought process was, what will I do after 1 year? And I said, you need to start working and performing. So his answer was, I will perform well, I will exceed your expectations. How will you reward me? And then the person says, what will happen to my title? So then I spent some time. I said, what do you want to do? He said, yeah. So 2 years down the line, let's assume that you do excellent job. So I drew a map for him. So then I said 2 years, you're a software engineer, you're a senior software engineer, and I do. So finally, and I was asking him, how much time do you think you need in this role? So the person was saying 3 years, 2 years, 1 year, and all stuff. So then after that, I calculated, after 10 years, the only position that is available is a CEO position. So then he thought, yeah. So that, unfortunately, I can't give you. It is beyond my reach. So then, what do you want to do? Then he said, yeah, I will leave that. But still, what next for me? The reality is that the person was not selected. Because this what's in it for me, or this 1 year syndrome, it hurts the organizations very badly. And even the individuals. And that's what Mr. Rao was sharing, they don't know that when people come with an entitlement mentality, it becomes very difficult. And it is such a strong this thing, and they hurt themselves. We hired some people from certain set of colleges, and obviously because of the college ratings and where they come, what course and all, there is a certain difference in the compensation. Like any IT companies and all. Once they come into the organization, it is their performance. And this gentleman asks me that, I have an X salary, and I have one more person in my team who comes from another college. His salary is Y, higher than. Both of us are doing the same thing. Because that person is from an IIT or this thing, why should I get paid less? So he was arguing. I said, finally I heard, and I asked him, why didn't you get through IIT? You have the answer. Okay. But this entitlement mentality hurts the organization as well as the students. We want people to take a holistic requirement, but people are merit increase obsessed. As I said, just like my son, he wants to work from, study from home. So they are merit increase obsessed. Everything boils down to that percentage, comparison and all stuff. Similarly, today's reality is flatter organization structure. People are title and vertical obsessed. And this has to do something with our culture itself. Right? And there is also a very, very interesting thing. When our people go to US, they work as a software engineer for about 10 years, 12 years, 15 years. When they want to come back, they come back, hey, give me higher title. I said, Jaidev, what will I tell my neighbors? Yeah, that, that's more in the society as well. So, and then innovative mindset, not tuned to think differently. I will also share some instances in the, not only experienced people, if you ask them what did you do differently, even especially students, when they do a project, 3 or 4 people do the same project. Sometimes they copy it so badly that they even copy the full stops and commas also. Okay, they don't tend to do. And one of the challenge which I will not blame them, because in the college they don't get that kind of a right direction, right, to do things which are differently. People are encouraged only to do tried tested models. It does not help the college, because over a period of time from an industry, what happens is people see, okay, the students only work on these things. So if I want people to think on differently, the capabilities are different, because they have never tuned to think differently. Experiment. The gap is that fear of failure. People are so afraid that they will fail that they don't want to do anything. Okay. Uh, we need technology experts, but unfortunately everybody wants to be a manager in India. And globally, people feel that Indians are not good managers. We are good technologists. So, and this starts right at the college. So, what do you want to do 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, 5 years? I want to become a manager. Do you want to become an architect? I will think through. So, you can see how that gap is, that if people are not oriented, as much as I say we are not innovative company and all, these are the hindrances. Today, as far as our services are concerned, nobody can beat us. You know, we are way ahead when compared to China or any other country, the way we can deliver and all stuff. But we will have to build on that. We need more technology experts. Okay, and the thought process and coaching and these things have to come at the college. People need to be encouraged to become technology leaders. Okay, we want people to be in front of the customers, and just as Mr. Rao was mentioning, people can't talk. And as people grow in the organization, it is difficult to teach English. And my biggest disconnect is that in the college's selection process, if people are so bad at communication, I really feel sad for the kids. They just can't communicate. And sometimes placement officers come and tell, sir, this child is very good and all stuff. So my point is, if you couldn't teach that person English in 4 years, how will I teach in the organization in English? Because we end up making his life or her life more miserable, and even our life. So somewhere today colleges are failing to recognize that, because of the commercial element of it. I'm sure nobody wants to miss that. But think that way, how can you groom people on communication? Because it is as important as C, C++ or Java. Because if this is not there, it becomes increasingly difficult for organizations to hire, despite the person being very bright. Okay, what can you all do or we all do to shape this talent? Emphasis on our value system. It's very, very important. While we are dealing with Gen Y and all, some fundamentals still remain same. Emphasize people to work hard. I was actually interviewing somebody, who's for civil engineering, and I asked him, the person had an opportunity. Why do you, he had an opportunity from L&D. So why do you want to apply to IT? He says, I don't want to work in the sun. It's a dangerous attitude. Because I don't have any guarantee that the person can work hard in IT also. Children generally get carried away by a glamour element. So you are the right people to guide them. Emphasize on our core value system. Be the best in your own field. Sometimes minds are all scattered all over the place. Somebody wants to do .NET, SAP, this, that, and all stuff. Ultimately, they end up doing nothing. They end up learning nothing. Ask them to focus on one thing, okay, and encourage people, people or the students to do different things. It's okay to fail. And I keep telling that in college is the environment where it's okay to fail and experiment. Okay, I don't know how many colleges actually do that. Give them a new project and tell, because what's important is not they not getting successful, they learning where all they can fail. That's very important. Have a right attitude to learn. Pardon for my mistake there. Today, increasingly we find that people don't want to learn. And the example that I was sharing with you, the person says after 1 year, 1.5 years, what's in it for me? So I was telling him, we'll give you this opportunity to learn. The person is just not ready to listen. they don't have that attitude to learn or that hunger to learn, which we used to find in the previous generation. So emphasize, this is how much time are they spending in getting an industry acquaintance, all this stuff. It's very, very important. Communication, I can't emphasize more on this. We don't want people to talk in American accent. People who can articulate and comprehend. It's very, very important. Okay, so, and other important thing is that, especially in campuses, people have this habit of hopping jobs. It is going to hurt the industry, it is going to hurt the students or employees, it is also going to hurt the reputation of the colleges. Now people have this, okay, I'll try this organization for 2 years, then go there. Again, this connects back to our value system. Technology, encourage people to become technology experts. Again, this connects back with the innovation and all. And this is what is important, this is what is emphasized in the corporate. Shift your thought process from career ladder to career lattice. Vertical structures are going away. So learning is important. How can you spread your wings is important. Last thing is, we want individuals to focus. If there are 2 things that are missing, somebody was asking me, that you don't find these days, because people study so many complex things and they want to do so many things, focus is missing, and most uncommon thing is common sense. So simple things, people fail at doing the simple things while they do and learn the most complex things. So focus is very important. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for this opportunity.